Hi, this is Q, an autonomous work agent that lives inside Slack. Q connects the systems where work already lives: Slack, GitHub, Linear, Notion, PostHog, and more. It plans before it acts, gathers evidence across those systems, detects conflicts, and executes real work while keeping a human in control of every write. Let's watch Q handle a live workday entirely from Slack. Q begins by understanding my priorities and creating a bounded plan. It selects the relevant systems, then gathers context from Slack, GitHub, Linear, Notion, and PostHog. The Slack message updates as the workflow progresses, so I can see what Q is planning, which systems it is checking, and what remains. This is not a hidden chain of thought. It is a clear, useful view of the agent's work and evidence coverage. Q surfaces two priorities: an unexecuted rollout decision and a launch risk caused by conflicting evidence. Each card offers a clear next action. Let's start with the decision. Q selects its decision to execution skill and creates a plan for this goal. It recovers the authoritative rollout decision, implementation owner, rollback owner, deadline, launch criteria, and repository restrictions. Then it checks related Slack context, task information, documentation, and the GitHub repository before proposing any action. Independent evidence reads can run in parallel, while policy checks remain deterministic. Q now builds a decision contract, drafts the smallest repository change allowed by policy, validates the file path in diff, and prepares an approval preview. The agent chose the steps based on the requested outcome and available capabilities. Nothing has been written yet. Before Q writes anything, I review the repository: base SHA, new branch, commit, pull request description, affected file, and exact values. Q is limited to one allowed configuration file. It cannot touch the default branch, merge, deploy, change workflows, access secrets, or escape the repository allow list. This is autonomy with human approval. Only after my explicit approval does Q revalidate the repository and file SHAs, create an isolated branch, make one atomic commit, and open a real draft pull request. The pull request is now created. Q closes the loop inside the original Slack thread. The real GitHub pull request is linked here, and CI has already reported back as passing. I never had to leave Slack, but I still retained control over the external write. The agent moved from conversation to verified execution, while every consequential action remained reviewable. Now, let's investigate the second item. This is a different goal, so Q selects a different skill and generates a different evidence plan. Its launch readiness skill independently decides which connected systems are necessary, gathers fresh evidence, compares requirements, and checks for contradictions. Slack memory supplies the canonical decision. Linear and Notion contribute delivery context, PostHog contributes product signals, GitHub contributes repository and CI state. This workflow is read-only. Q can investigate autonomously, but any corrective write would still require approval. Q detects two evidence-backed blockers. The authoritative Slack decision specifies a 10% rollout, while the stale Linear record still specifies 50%. PostHog shows Safari completion at 31.4%, below the required 42% threshold. GitHub CI is passing, but passing CI alone is not enough to make this launch ready. Q returns a blocked verdict instead of pretending the launch is safe. It reports 95% evidence confidence, 7 evidence items, and 5 connected systems. Most importantly, it explains the conflict and stops safely. The full report begins with the executive verdict, decision baseline, and evidence freshness. Then Q walks connector by connector through Slack, GitHub, Linear, Notion, and PostHog before comparing every launch requirement. It exposes the rollout conflict, the Safari conversion blocker, remaining unknowns, and the exact recommended action plan. Q says what must happen next: update Linear from 50% to the canonical 10% and keep launch blocked until Safari reaches 42% or the owner changes the criterion. The autonomy boundary remains explicit. This analysis is read-only. Every corrective write needs approval, and the source section preserves direct evidence for every claim. This is Q, an autonomous work agent inside Slack. It turns conversations into approved execution, and evidence into decisions. Q investigates autonomously, acts with human approval, and stops safely when teams are not ready.